they work on each other. There are 10 steps in that. There are 10 steps that we should engage in at all times, okay, in creating lasting change, because quite honestly, I think you and I would agree that creating change that doesn't stick sucks. So an example of that would be, busting your butt to lose 10 or 15 or 20 pounds just to put it back on, right? An example of that would be getting into a new morning habit that took you a while to break your old habits, just to fall back to the way you used to do things. So what I'm going to share with you is a way to break that pattern and to create change that lasts. And always, when I use the word change, it's always synonymous with the word growth. Remember, only living things can change, and change does not equal growth, although growth requires change. So don't mistake the two. I can take a rock, which can't grow, but if I bash it with a sledgehammer, it will change. And don't make the mistake of creating change in your life that doesn't include growth. Don't change for just the sake of changing. That kind of makes sense, you guys? Hopefully it does. Creating lasting change, the hardest opponent to defeat is the one that never gives up. If you never quit, you can't lose. If you never quit, you cannot lose. It just means that every step is a part of the learning process. That's the cool thing about it. So number 1, 10 steps. You can write these down. These are pretty awesome. Some of them are very obvious, but they're worth repeating because we don't make them part of our daily operation. Kids get this one right. They figure out what they want to do first, then they figure out how the hell they're going to do it. But they start with what they want first. They don't let their means determine their ends. They figure out where they're going, and then they'll get to where the part of it that counts on how they're going to get there. Okay? We as adults tend to conform to some of our stuff going on around us. And we tend to lean the other way where, like, all right, let me take inventory of where I'm at in life here, and I'll let that determine where I go next. Truth of it is, if we always let our means determine our ends, we can't grow, can we? Can't expand. Don't get caught in that trap. It all begins with knowing your outcome. If you didn't choose where you wanted to go on vacation, which direction would you head? Yet many of us go through life this way. We're busy each day, so effectively, we're driving our car like we're going on vacation, but we're not headed anywhere because there's no defined, crystal clear end to the journey. So every day we take a different path. This is where distractions come into play. This is where shiny objects come into play. Well, because there's nothing to keep us on track, we don't know the end. All these distractions, they have an influence on us. Number 1, begin with the end in mind. Number 2, create a massive action plan to achieve the outcome that you desire. Now, just the beginning of this allows us to kind of formulate the process in our head and prepares us for things that will happen, things that are outside of our current knowledge but that always pop up. And that's why I say never create a plan A alone. Create a plan A knowing that all that is an exploratory process. It's going to take B, C, and D, and maybe E to get us to where we want to go. We've got to be able to adapt along the way. When we prepare for a martial arts fight, like a cage fight, we do it based on, create a plan A based on what we know about the opposing fighter. If they're a great stand-up, great striker, saying, we're going to take this person to the ground and fight him on the ground. Maybe that's for our strength. But we quickly find out that this person is a high-level black belt in jiu-jitsu. We're changing that plan as we get beat up on the ground. We're going to go to something else. There better be a plan B and a plan C. And such is creating change in our lives that's going to stick, that's going to last. Okay? So it allows you to think through the process when you create a massive action plan, but also prepares us for the unknown. And the one thing we know about the unknown is it's coming our way. So although we don't know exactly what it is, we know it will show up. That you can count on. So number 2, create a massive action plan. Number 1, start with the end in mind. Number 3, adapt to the circumstances. Now, there's 2 types of circumstances, those that we can control and those that we cannot. There's things that we can do something about and things that we can't. You know, if you're, what's a real life scenario? So a real life scenario, something we can't control ever, is the weather, right? And the weather does get in our way. In our boating world, we have to plan on the weather. So if we take longer trips and we're further offshore, we've got to be very cognizant of the weather because there's nothing we can do. However, we can adapt to the weather. We can create a boating plan, a floating plan around the weather. That would be an uncontrollable circumstance that we adapt to. A controllable circumstance might be, I don't know, in the boating world, I guess, would be provisioning your boat maybe, and how much fuel you take on in water, which will allow you to go further from port to port. That would be a circumstance within our controls. We create our plan. Circumstances, right? That's what I'm talking about. Know that circumstances will happen and they will get in your way. And there's ones that we can control and there's ones we can't control. The ones we can control, it's our job to control them, identify them, and control them. The ones we can't control, it's our job to be prepared and to adapt to them so that we're not a result of the influence of the uncontrollable circumstance. I often talk about, environments and our environments that we exist in and how we are ultimately rated by our competency and incompetency, and simply defined as our ability to achieve what we say we're going to do, our ability to get done what we claim we're going to do. So really what that translates into is how we adapt to circumstances and the influences of the circumstances on us. The circumstances we can control and change them. Those you can't control, the environments you can't control, it's our job to be prepared for and adapt to them so that it does not negatively affect our ability to achieve our outcomes and our results. That's competency. Cool. Number 3, adapt to circumstances. Number 1, know your outcome. Number 2, create a massive action plan. Number 3, adapt to the circumstance. Number 4, begin immediately. When we're looking to create change, there is no tomorrow. As a matter of fact, the future doesn't exist, period. Future, when you think about it, only exists in your mind and in my mind. And because your idea of the future and my idea of the future are different, the future, therefore, is not real. It's only as real to you as maybe mine is to me, but they're different. So which one is the real future? Neither are. They're made up because everybody's going to make up their own future. You don't wake up one morning, you don't wake up this morning and say, wow, I'm in the future. No. You said, I'm in the present. I'm here today. See, there is no future. That's why there is no tomorrow. There's now. And if it's that important to you, if you want to really get it done, if you want to create lasting change, it's got to begin. It's got to begin now. So when you put together this plan, this massive action plan, it has to have a timestamp of performance. Right? You hear me often bring up the mosquito and the elephant. And as it applies here, the elephant is never disturbed by the mosquito. The size difference prohibits that. The time to do this is now. Track your results. If you don't track it, you can't improve it. You don't know if you're off course. So tracking, again, in the boating world would be, as I'm traveling in open water with no landmarks in sight, there would still be buoys that I would put in as waypoints, and I would mark these and where I should be at a certain time and whether or not I'm there or not at these buoys. That's how I'm marking whether or not I'm on the right course. I'm making the progress I'm supposed to be making. If I didn't keep track of this, I wouldn't know with no other visuals around whether or not I'm in the right direction. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Oftentimes when we wake up, we set out to do another day's work, and we question ourselves. Are we doing the right things there? Are we heading the right direction? Do I even know where I'm going? Do I even know why I'm doing what I'm doing? I get it. I understand that. Tracking your results at least lets you know you're headed where you desire to be going. I can bring this over to the discussion of practice, and not just practicing, but doing an execution of practice that's very deliberate. Meaning that, let's use golfing as an example. Some may go to a driving range, get a bucket of balls, and just whack away at will. Somebody else may get 100 balls, set a pin at, say, 100 yards, and with some sort of, I don't know, wedge or chipping iron or whatever, I'm not a golfer, but may strive to put the ball within 20 yards of that pin 80% of the time and measure these results. This way they can show if they're improving or not. And as they improve, they can move the pin further out or try to get a higher percentage ratio of balls closer to the pin or whatever it may be. But outside of that level of measurement, how do you know if you're getting any better, if you're improving, if you're going in the right direction? If you don't know how successful you've been, you don't get any better and you stop caring. You know, when we don't have tangible, measurable pieces that we can embrace, it's hard to really commit at a deep level. It's hard to really care. So number 5 here is track everything. If you don't track it, you can't improve it. Number 6, embrace fear. Fear gets such a bad shake. We've talked about fear many, many, many times, so we don't have to beat it up again here. But most people live in a state where they fear living more than they do dying. They're afraid of doing. And in doing so, they don't do. And in not doing, they live on the side of life where they're not growing or expanding. They're contracting and dying. More worried about living than they are about dying. I get it, but listen, without getting deep into this conversation, embrace fear. Enjoy it. Fear is an indicator that something good can happen. An opportunity is knocking. And when we flinch to that opportunity, we miss out again on it. All because we're a little afraid of what might happen if we go for it, what somebody might think if we go for it and it doesn't work out. You've heard many times over, I'm sure, the proverbial, you know, your basketball court last-minute shot. You're afraid of missing the shot, so you don't take the shot. And as a result, you get exactly what you feared the most. You missed the shot. Such is life. So please, embrace fear. Fear is not a problem. Its effect on us can be a problem. Next, number 7, make it personal. Own this stuff from the inside. Don't just go through life unconsciously and not have some sort of emotional attachment to it. Buy into what you're doing. Make it personal. You know, for instance, if it's weight loss you're dealing with, don't worry about the pounds. Don't worry about the measurements. Focus on how it will make you feel when you are 20 pounds lighter. How will people see you differently? How will your spouse look at you? How will you look at you? Make it personal. Get emotional about it. Once we get to that space, it creates an intrinsic drive, an inspirational drive comes from inside of us. Instead of always relying on an outward, external, motivating force to push us, it's now coming from within because it's ours. We own it. Get personal with it. Get emotionally attached to it. Our decisions come from an emotional capacity, not from an intellectual capacity. Embrace it, empower it, so it serves the outcomes that you want, that you're trying to achieve here. Next one here, number 8, own your outcome. Now, this is the big one, because this also means you have to own the good and the bad. It doesn't matter. You have to appreciate that everything that has happened to you up till now and everything that you have in your life, all of you, every person that surrounds you, you've chosen to be there. Everything you have is a direct result of some decision you've made, and you have to own that. The moment we blame it on something else, we give away our core of control. We give away our power. Let's just say that this light bulb represented power, control, okay? And whoever possesses it is in control. But it's also responsibility and ownership. Okay? So if I take ownership of who I am and where I'm at, so you know what decisions I've made have put me here, and I'm okay with that, I've got all the control, all the power to do something about it. I'm in charge. Me. The second I say the economy did it, or my boss did it, or the job did it, or my spouse did it, or somebody else put me here, I take this control, this power, and I hand it off to them. And I'm effectively powerless. Take no responsibility, give away all my control. That's how important this is. Own your outcome. Who you are does not have to dictate who you are to become. I put this in here in the event that maybe you're not happy with some of the things you've done. That's fine. I'll be the first one to raise my hand saying I've done some stupid things in my life. I've done some things that I would not do again. I don't live in regret, but I wouldn't do them again. You know what I'm saying? And that's all right. Show me a person who hasn't made stupid mistakes, and I'll show you somebody who's lying. Okay? It happens. But don't let your past ever infringe upon who you were meant to be. That's a big difference there. Okay? Who you were doesn't have any input on who you want to become. So number 8, own your outcomes. In doing so, you're in complete control, complete empowerment to dictate where you go from here. Number 9, enjoy the journey. The journey has its ups and downs, okay? And for some reason, we all enjoy the ups, I get that, but we get so bent out of shape on the downs, when in fact, they're a required process, whereas picture the peaks up here at the top of the journey is where we celebrate life, and the valleys are where we learn about life. Learn about life, celebrate life. Learn about life, celebrate life. And such is the journey. The journey is for us. You say, well, what is the journey, Pat? The journey is for us to become all that we're fully capable of becoming. And because there's a little paradox hidden in there, it's not about the end. It's about the journey to get there. And the paradox is this. If self-actualization, if total fulfillment was for you to become self-actualized, meaning you've reached full potential, you fully became everything you could become. If that was the highest level of fulfillment, which it is, the paradox would be this, that as we push towards becoming all we can be, okay, our potential is continually getting enhanced. We increase our potential every day as we add life experiences and we get better at what we do. And our potential goes up. We become more, and our potential goes up. So effectively, the paradox is, through the journey, we keep pushing out further our potential gets bigger. We can never catch our potential. That's the paradox. You say, well, what's the answer to the riddle? The riddle is simple. It's not about the end. It's about the journey. So you've heard it 1,000 times. And the journey being you outperforming you from the day before, becoming bigger in everything that you do every day. Not by big monstrous steps, baby steps, constantly growing, not changing, growing, expanding, becoming a bigger person in all that you are, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, every aspect of you, becoming a better person, reaching higher limits, not competing with anybody outside of you. The only one you compete with is you from yesterday. You from yesterday. That's it. It's your only competition. Nothing else matters in that space. So enjoy the journey. Enjoy the fact that we do have learning opportunities. That if we didn't, we'd stop growing. We can't just sit on a peak all the time. There's no growing opportunities here. This is our celebration time. We grow through the challenges in life. You all know that. Some of your most challenging experiences in life created the most significant steep learning curves, and in mine too. That's why it's so important to understand this relationship of highs and lows, how they support one another, and why it's so critical that we learn to enjoy the journey. Stop waiting to be happy. Be happy that you're on the journey. And I've always defined success as a steady forward progress towards a worthy known outcome. Steady forward progress towards a worthy known outcome, which means that success isn't it's not a location. It's not a gift. It's not a possession. It can't be given to you. It's more of a state. It's kind of like rent, though, where you've got to pay into it every single day. It's a constant, steady progress. It's the journey. Get it? Love who you are. Love what you have. Appreciate who you are and what you have, and always want more. I had somebody the other day saying, Pat, it almost sounds greedy. Appreciate what you have and always want more. It's not greedy if you understand this little discussion we just had. It's our job to be in the process of achieving all that we can be, to be on the journey. The second we stop, we start contracting. There's no in between. Stop growing, we start dying. We're not really dying. We're growing obsolete each day when we stop the journey. You want to be able to give back at a high level. You've got to perform at a high level in the journey. It's what enables you to be a bigger person. Happy with who you are, grateful for what you have, and always wanting more. Embrace the ride, the highs and the lows. They serve one another. Can't have one without the other. One little caveat on that is how long you're on the peak and how long you stay in the valley is directly relative to decisions that we make while we're there. So we can lengthen the ride on top and we can shorten the time down the valley. Just trust me on that one. We'll do that on another call. And then finally, number 10. It's funny, I adopted this little quote from a buddy of mine, a high school buddy. He's a really good friend of mine. We spent a lot of time together. He's a high-end timber frame, like a vacation home builder up in Vermont. And he's always said this, never miss a day. Never miss a day. So I adopted it, and then I kind of grew into it, what it really meant. When we commit every day to growing, it creates a focus unlike anything else. It creates an intensity, a clarity unlike anything else. And it's through that clarity, that intensity, that focus that rallies the forces of the universe to stand behind our mission. So no longer are we fighting friction every day. We're finding it to be a little less resistant. No longer are we swimming upstream. We're now going with the current. No longer distractions ripping apart our day because we don't even acknowledge them or empower them. We're clear, we're focused, we're powerful, we're strong. Never miss a day. The process of committing to it every day, thinking about it, being conscious in it every day, even if it's just one. One thing I do every single morning, no matter what, as I do, set of push-ups, no matter what. Sometimes it might be a set of 75. Sometimes it might be only a set of 30. But I do them. Even when I feel crappy, I do them. It's just something I committed to because I know that kind of just, it ignites my body in the morning. That's all. And I've made that commitment. Just as a little example. But I do this in all aspects of my life. I commit every day to give somebody the gift, the one gift that we all want every single day, and that's to feel better. I make sure I go out of my way consciously to make someone feel better. Now, naturally, you do that through your being, but I do it consciously. And I'll pick somebody and make sure I make them feel better. It's the greatest gift you can give to somebody. Everything on your to-do list, everything on your want list, everything on your bucket list, everything on your fire list, it all evolves around making you feel better, directly or indirectly. I promise you that. It's one thing we all want. It's as simple as that. Oops. Last, we'll leave you with this. The unseen along the journey, there'll always be someone ahead of you and someone behind you, and that's just fine. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about what you don't have. Focus on what you want. The person behind you, give them a hand up. The person ahead of you, appreciate them. They're showing you the way. But don't let it distract you from your path. Help to serve others and be sure to take care of you. There's some belief. I had this conversation the other day. I said, Pat, why can't you give your stuff away for free? If I did that, number one, I'd be out of agreement with those that do hire me. Number two, if I gave everything away for free, there's sooner or later be nothing left to Pat. I wouldn't be able to give anything. That's it. It'd be as simple as that. That doesn't make any sense. The bigger I grow myself, the more I can give, the more influence I can have on having a positive impact on people every single day. And know how to ask for what you need. Now, I'll end it on this because this is kind of a complicated topic. We all need something. Sometimes we need it a lot, right? I don't know how to explain this in short order, but the easiest way to ask for what you need is to give what you need. And I know that sounds a little messed up. I use love, for example, because we can all relate to this. You will never be loved by others unless you allow yourself to be. And you do that by loving others, opening the door and attracting love into your lives. And I know some people who are suffering with this right now because they've been hurt and they're unwilling to love others, but yet they want to be loved. I've had the same conversation. You know what? You get what you want by giving what you need. You get what you want by giving what you need. So I'm going to let you guys settle in on that one, okay? Couple comments here. My comment box is so tiny. It's almost impossible to read. Let me see if I can make it bigger up. I better not press any buttons. There's some comments. A leader, not a follower. Mistakes are necessary to succeed. Pat, thank you so much for this conversation. I needed this today. Live in the present and not the future. Yeah, well, you know what? There is no future. I explained that. That's a falsity that we like to talk about. Being thankful for what you have. If you can't be thankful for what you have, you'll never appreciate what you think you want. Pat, I don't fully understand that there's no future, but pretty interesting. Fair enough. Can Keep the moments going, feed the fire. Yeah, awesome. Great comments, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so with that, I'm going to let you go. You guys are awesome. If you need anything, you're always free to reach out to us. And if you have any chosen topics for future presentations, you're more than welcome to suggest those as well. All right, have an awesome week this week. Cheers.